Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. You're welcome today um, to this boot camp with the theme Strategies for High Impact Publications from Postgraduate Research Works. And I'll be considering the title Developing Quality Mini Literature Review for publishing in Scopus indexed conference proceedings. All right. I met a session literature review, and it looked like extensive literature review. That was what was being presented, and so but the difference with this is this is targeted at mini literature reviews. Okay. So I'll be covering these topics, understanding the essence of literature reviews. I'm sure you're already, conversant with that, especially with the presentation, the earlier presentation. And then we'll be talking about mini literature reviews, and what we'll be understanding what it's about, the objective of mini literature reviews. Okay. And then we'll look at the case of IEEE journals. So I understand many persons here are from biological sciences and all. So, but I'm an engineer, and this is my case study for today. But I'm sure, from the interactions, would be able to, apply the knowledge that I'll be presenting here. And then, of course, I'm interested in, live case studies, questions, and I'm sure we'll have a fruitful session. So we'll begin understanding the essence of literature reviews. So, I'd like to say there is no research without literature review. The word research, we can break it down into two components, the re and the search. So you're searching and searching again and again. That's what research is about. So you cannot say you're doing research by just coming up with your own idea of something and that's it. No, and you're not situating it in the body of knowledge. What have others done? Where are we coming from? What's going on in this research space? Until you are able to build up from that point, you are not, ready for a research. And so we'll be looking at that very quickly. So I'll just present this and then we'll go into the mini literature review. So I've defined literature review as a critical analysis and synthesis of existing research on a particular topic or research question. Okay, so of course it provides an overview of the past, current state of knowledge. It highlights key findings and definitely identifies gaps. Very important. Identifies gaps. So you may say, oh, but I'm just researching for knowledge purposes. Eventually, it will lead to identification of gaps. You will begin to realize, oh, so this person did this. Although you were trying to be informed before, but you'll be looking at, oh, so this person did this. Oh, this person also did the same thing. Oh, they use different methodologies. Oh, this was what this person was able to achieve. This was the difference with this other research. Oh, this person didn't consider this. At that point, you're already identifying issues with the said literature, and that can be equated to identifying gaps in the literature. Okay, so there are different types of literature review. I'm sure the immediate past presentation looked at narrative literature review. You have systematic, you have meta-analysis, narrative, scoping. So I want to ask, I want this to be, an interactive session. So what do you know about these types of reviews? Have you ever heard of these reviews I have mentioned? Or do you know any other types that you want to talk about? So I'll like participation. I encourage participation. I want us to, engage. What do you know about these types of reviews? the ones I have mentioned, what does it mean? What does systematic literature review mean? What does meta-analysis mean? In fact, so for biological sciences, I'm interested, computer science, I'm interested in knowing what kind of literature reviews do you do in your own domain? When you say literature review, what are you talking about? What kind of, have you termed it? Or you just say, oh, I'm just doing literature review. You've not really settled down to know what kind of literature review you're talking about. So can we have responses? What do we think? Have we heard of these types? What types have you heard of? Yeah, so I'd like participation. Thank you. Yeah, we must talk, we must contribute. Yeah. And it's a form of feedback too. You just finished the session on literature review. So what did you learn there? Okay. Yeah. Okay. What do you mean what happened? What happened to what?
Okay, like trying to review other, like if you want to start writing a review in biological science, try to go through some research papers and see what they have done, then narrate them, like, and then bring out a review. That's one I know.
Like something like, you mean something like describing
them,
what did this person
what they
do?
did and what was the difference and the results.
Thank you very much. And have you engaged in any specific literature review tasks? Tasks.
Okay.
On any topic?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, how many papers formed your literature review?
Okay. Initially, they were asked to get like 20 papers first, just to read. Just to read. Then, as it began, let's say the maximum were like about 50 papers, just reading through them, getting the ideas and gathering.
Thank you very much. Can we have, we have another contributor.
All right, thank you, Ma. I've done something around meta-analysis.
Great.
Before.
So tell us about meta-analysis.
So what we did was that we searched through databases with keywords to get different papers relating to what we're looking for, using some exclusion criteria, inclusion criteria. So we now did some sort of data analysis on them to get statistical.
Great, that's the keyword there. When you're talking about meta-analysis, you're bringing up statistical data, statistical inferences, statistical information about it. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So thank you so much for the contributions. So let's now look at what are mini literature reviews. So the objective of a mini literature review article is to highlight a particular topic or series of linked topics in a quick and easy way. Now, so when you see quick and easy, what comes to your mind? It means, I need publication. I can quickly do a mini literature review, right? And get it published. Yeah. But there's a catch. There's a catch to mini literature reviews. It seems, it seems that way, because when you see those reviews, it looks like, oh, brilliant. I mean, this is a short, typically when you see systematic literature reviews, meta-analysis, they span several pages. When you see the reference list, you see 300 and something references, right? But for mini literature reviews, you could see 27 references, 50 references. So it seems like, meaning I need publication and let me quickly do a mini literature review. But I'm here to, throw some light into what goes into a mini literature review. Okay, so mini literature review is a condensed version of a traditional literature review, typically found as shorter academic review papers. So think condensed systematic literature review. If you've seen a systematic literature review, initially you'll be overwhelmed by how much information is coming at you. Okay, so but a mini literature review shrinks all of that. Now, what is the challenge with producing these reviews? They require comprehensive understanding of the research topic and the nuances in the study domain. Critical analysis skills is required, and effectively synthesizing information. You must be able to effectively synthesize information. So there's a need to condense a vast amount of information into a concise format while maintaining clarity and coherence. So yeah, let me finish and then we'll now talk about it. So authors must carefully select relevant and recent sources. Relevant and recent sources. Extract key findings and present them in a structured manner, providing insights into gaps and areas for further research. So let's demystify what we are saying here. What does recent sources mean? Relevant sources. Now, let me ask a question. When you started your research, master's or PhD, okay, when you started out and you came up with, okay, so I think I want to work in this area, or perhaps you were given a certain area to work on, right? As you went into the literature and you began to read about that topic, what would you say was your experience? Were you immediately understanding, what you were seeing? Okay? Yeah, I already have responses, and people are shaking their head no. Now, if you are not immediately understanding and it's taking you time in fact, it will take you time to even be able to separate what they are even talking about in those papers. You say a paper, you think it's a paper on your area of research. Meanwhile, they've deviated in that paper. Meanwhile, they are talking about something else. Perhaps the methodology they are talking about is not even related to where you are going at all. Okay? But you've picked that paper, you've downloaded it, that's a paper in my area. But eventually down the line, you realize that paper, noted for information, right? But it has nothing to do with my own focus, right? Now, what did I say here? You realize down the line. That down the line could be towards the end of your time on that program, actually. Sometimes it could take that long. So let me ask a question. Is it possible for a fresh student to embark on a mini literature review and get it published? Is it possible? A fresh student, you just started your research program. Postgraduate, let's say masters. If you, for mini literature review.
Yes, if you actually have an area of interest, okay, and like somebody said, if you have 20 publications and you have done a thorough work with those 20 publications, you can't get a mini review. As far as you have an area of interest and you're able to do justice with just 20 publications, I feel you can.
When you say justice, what do you, please define justice?
You are able to bring out several methodologies that has been used in that particular work. Okay. And from the 20 publications, you will definitely get gaps. Not everybody would use the same method. And even with several methods that have been used, there would definitely be gaps one way or the other. So if you're able to identify that gap, and from what we learned previously, you might not use the same method he used. If you're able to identify gaps and you're able to, get out variances, plotting some graphs and all of that, you can come out with a mini. For me, as far as you have an interest and you're able to, I think you should be able to come out with a mini review.
Thank you. Somebody else wants to say something.
Yes, just as you said, but as you place it like fresh student, and you put in a typical time frame. Now, a fresh student will not just search anyway and begin to look for. So I don't know how possible it is for, though he will eventually get it, but it will take longer time than getting it shortly.
Thank you. Do you want to say something? Yeah, he was putting his.
One of the challenges the freshman is going to face is, where do I start from? Because automatically it's coming to a system maybe he has not been writing before. So coming to a place that they write and you need to publish, the question is, where do I start and how do I start? And what are the things I need to put in place to have effective writing to publish?
Thank you. Thank you. So, for me, I would say for a fresh student to do a successful mini literature review, that fresh student must be handheld by experienced people. You must be handheld. It is because, we'll go through the characteristics of mini literature reviews and what publishers expect. I currently review for IEEE journals and conferences, and there are expectations for mini literature reviews. It's not systematic, reviews that, you can start from the past, and start coming from 1961, and reviewing, 10 years, pick decade by decade, and, draw, well, okay, what are they trying to say over time? Mini literature review is more targeted. Currency of the literature is very important. They are trying to see, okay, why? Why should we publish this review work? Why? Why is it important to publish it? It means that you thoroughly understand that domain, to be able to synthesize the literature and categorize clearly what, the typical, groups of that literature. For example, somebody is doing biosensing. There are different techniques for biosensing. If you say you are doing literature review for a particular area of biosensing, and because you've said biosensing, you begin to pick other types of biosensing techniques and put them under your literature, they would know that you're a rookie in that area when you try to publish that paper as a mini literature review. For systematic, you can spread your wings a bit, and, say you're presenting several, techniques, but typically mini literature reviews are more targeted because it's mini already. It's mini, so it's targeted, okay? And that's what we'll be looking at today. What are the characteristics of mini literature reviews? Okay, what are the characteristics? What are the things that are expected? And we'll be looking at some case studies. And I'll be presenting to you from the IEEE perspective, what are they looking for in those types of reviews? Okay? So that's what we'll be looking at. So we've not even answered this question. So when we say recent, what do we mean by recent? So I can allow you to define recent using Covenant University's definition. Okay? So everybody is echoing 5 years, right? 5 years, typically. But I saw somewhere where they argued that for a mini literature review, when they say recent, they mean 2 years. They mean 2 years. When I saw it, I'm like, okay. So that signposts the reason for the fewer references, the fact that you now need to be, it has to be targeted. Even if you're talking about something, you need to be talking about that thing in a particular perspective, right? So you can focus your energy properly, right? There are many outlets that, don't take reviews. That's the honest truth. There are many outlets that don't take review. They ask for, new ideas. You get, articles, original work, and all of that. So for them to take your review, it means, okay, you've been able to, thoroughly synthesize a couple of literatures in a particular perspective, and you're presenting it, and you're giving persons new ideas on how to forge ahead in that domain. Okay? So, all right. So, what's typical time? So we can't. But should we stick to Covenant 5 years? Okay. So let's stick to Covenant 5 years. All right. Yeah. So talking about literature sources, what kind of literature can you include in a mini literature review? What kind of literature can feature there? Obviously, journal articles, right? I already spoke about the 2 years thing. Journal articles, conference proceedings. Now, internet sources. When we say internet sources featuring in literature review, please, can we talk about this? Can we talk about this? What kind of internet sources? Are we talking Wikipedia? Exactly. No Wikipedia here. No Wikipedia. Are we talking about somebody in his own little corner that has created a website, a blog, talking? Can we reference that person? No, no. Even if the person is a professor in MIT that owns his own blog, we cannot cite him. Let's look for a paper he has written under that topic that has been published through a journal. Otherwise, what kind of internet sources can we cite, please? WHO, thank you. WHO, yes. CDC, yes. What? UNICEF, exactly. You know, the ones that are established, organizations, or governmental organizations, persons like that. What about, okay, so many persons here. Is any computer science here? Okay. So tell me website now. Is the biologists that are telling us websites? Stack Overflow. Okay. Are they reputable? Uche, are they reputable? Stack Overflow. Okay, they said no. Why? Why are they not reputable? Tell us the one. Anybody can post on, like Wikipedia. Okay. When you say verified, who is, I'm learning here. Who is verifying it?
As long as users are verified.
Okay. It's users that are verifying.
Please, let's raise our hands to talk so that I can give you the mic.
Somebody is raising hand here, but we want a computer scientist to talk. Uche, you talk.
Okay. I think you can't cite Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is just like a block. If you have a challenge in implementation, you post it, then somebody will guide you on how to achieve that. There's not much any reference. There's nothing novel work. I just see it as a block to help you solve a problem.
Okay.
Maybe in either coding or any program or something like that.
Okay.
But it's not.
Okay. She wants to argue it out. Let's give her the mic. Thank you.
We have GitHub or GitLab.
Okay.
We have the website of verification of database like Oracle, MySQL.
Okay.
And we can have also the documentation of the programming language. I don't know if we can have it, like Django.
Okay, but can you cite?
We can use the reference, the link we can use the link. We can use the link of of what we found of the response to put it into our reference. If we cannot cite, I don't know if we can just put the name and for the year. I don't know how we can cite it. But for the reference, we can take the link of the website.
Okay. There are counter arguments. Uche, can we cite?
Okay, let me.
Yeah.
Yes, so in my opinion, there's an idea I got from article posted on Google Cloud, actually. They're trying to explain the rationale behind the decision for them going for a direction for their framework. So I got the idea from Google Cloud. So we have also reputable people that are working, the professors are working in Google Cloud. They will have posts that they are trying to report what they did in their research. So I only look at them, I look at IBM. Also for statistics, when you're trying to represent, you want to contextualize your work in the global space, for example. So I use all these statistics, very known statistics sites like Statistica and all this. So those are the ones I'm privy to.
Okay. Yes. The last argument.
Okay, I'm speaking from bioinformatics point of view. So I know of Bioconductor. So Bioconductor is a comprehensive ecosystem that has lots of packages we use for analysis in bioinformatics. And I know that in some papers, I have seen that they have cited Bioconductor a lot. And then there's this thing called Zenodo. So when we write codes in bioinformatics, you can publish your codes on Zenodo, and it generates a unique DOI for you. So you can cite that, yes.
Okay. Mr. John is bent. Bent
so
on.
we should give it to him
on sorting this. Yes.
The reality is that if you look at that journal, what they normally do is that, okay, if I have a database and I probably want people to replicate my work, I can do that on GitHub and give you the steps. But GitHub is not like a reference. It's not a standard referencing stuff. It's just for you to go there, check the steps that the person have done the work, and replicate that, and probably edit his own to extend his work.
Because
that's what
I want to believe GitHub, it doesn't situate the theory behind, those.
It's just the implementation.
Yes.
Then if you look at it critically, the papers, they will refer you to the GitHub link.
Yes.
For you to access their work and either edit it or use it. But they will tell you, if you want to reference the journal, not the
yes.
GitHub.
Yeah.
So that GitHub is not the standard.
Okay. So can we have a last perspective on this? Professor Adetiba, are you there, sir? Prof. So we were asking that, so we're talking about internet sources as literature sources for mini literature reviews. And, persons gave their opinions, and there was an argument as to if you can cite GitHub, GitLab, right? Yes, Stack Overflow, yes.
Source code management systems.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you, just like you can cite Gen AI platform, if you generate content with ChatGPT, you can cite it. You cite as OpenAI and indicate the year when you pick that content. So GitHub, if you pick any code from GitHub, it's a standard source code management platform. You can cite it.
Okay. Persons argued that there are papers. I mean, persons have published papers, right? And they've put their codes on GitHub. And so they direct persons to GitHub from the academic published papers. So you can cite the papers, not the
GitHub has that option. You have a publication and the code base for your publication, you push it on GitHub. So in that case, if a such person will also put the citation to their publication right on that repository on GitHub. So it will be proper to cite the paper in that case. But there are cases that you don't have a publication yet on that particular source code, but it is in a repo and you are the author of that repo. So if you make use of that particular source code, you can cite it.
And you say you are the author of that repo.
Yes, you are acknowledging and attributing that knowledge to the source. That's the whole essence of citation.
Okay.
So GitHub is a standard source code management platform.
Okay. So we have a winner, do we?
Exactly. So, and what about data sets? Is there any discussion around citing data sets?
Where are we getting there? No. It's not here.
I think we can pick up that discussion now.
Okay.
If you generate an original data set and you push it to IEEE data ports.
Okay. Yeah.
And it has a DOI, then you can cite it.
Yes.
Or Kaggle.
Yeah.
And it has a DOI, you can cite it.
Yeah. Very true. Very correct. Yeah. Very correct. Thank you, sir. So in that light, do we have other examples of sources? So, I mean, I've put this, yes, you want to?
Can we cite news agencies, let's say BBC, down to our own news here, like let's say Sun newspapers and all those things? Can we cite them? And this goes beyond scientific, like STEMs. What about when I'm doing things in relation to
social sciences
and the rest? Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a personal experience about what you just asked. So, if it's the social sciences, I mean, typically, right? They usually, pick on such references. They draw on such references. So, the personal experience I have, when I was doing my PhD proposal, defense. Yes, it was the proposal defense, because my work was biosensing, right? I had a foothold there, and so it was targeted at nutrition, and I was trying to justify the work, with what was going on currently. Malnutrition matters, globally, in Nigeria. And I was trying to, say there to drive home the point that this is an important problem, and I was bringing up references from our, Nigerian newspapers and all of that. And an examiner flared up that no, no, this is an academic exercise, and maybe engineering, you can't have, those types of references here, and all of that. So that's why I said I have a personal experience. But deep down, yes, I get him, he's engineering, but when you're talking about justification, I've not put it in to strengthen my theory, what I was bringing up on board. But what I was putting it in was the justification for the research, right? So in that case, I didn't agree. I didn't agree with him, I didn't agree with him that it shouldn't be in my justification. You can say I should take it out of, introduction, trying to, establish the theory I'm talking about, but not in justification. Not in justification. So perhaps, like you said, in certain areas, in certain is unavoidable. You have to bring in those. I mean, there are persons that do studies where they go to settlements, right? Where they go to places, Morocco, all manner of space. They have to bring up, local content that might not be maybe published in journals, or something like that. They have to bring up such content to, present their work. All right. Yes. So government, corporate reports, books, theses and dissertations. I put a question mark there because I also saw somewhere that when you cite theses and dissertations, you have to be careful because the idea is that the person that wrote it is not an authority in that field. That was what the discourse was this person is a baby, has just been born into research. When you come in for a master's program, when you come in for a PhD program, complete rookie, maybe in the womb, you've not been born yet, just conceived in the womb. But by the time you finish that program, you've just been born. It's introduction to research. That was their point of view. What do you guys think? What do you think about that? Somebody said, when you've done all that work, 2 years, 4 years, that you still don't have anything to say. Is that true? Somebody already said yes. Before
you publish. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so I don't know the basis of that argument, but if you're talking about dissertation that's for masters according to covenant language, I think they can still argue that. But for a thesis, no. 4 years, 5 years, some people spend 10 years. And because before they can publish that thesis, it has gone through rigorous review. For that thing is not just the student's work. It's reviewers, experts work. So disqualifying that is a no-no for me, actually.
Thank you very much. Is there a counter argument? Thank you very much. Uche wants to blow it up.
I have a counter argument.
Thank you.
And a lot of persons, even myself, will say, "Why am I this?" I believe from what I've gotten from a lot of this. They consider people that have finished PhD as just starting research.
Yeah.
So when they look for students, they say they are looking for people that they're going to train in the process of research. So your thesis, from their point of view, is just specialization in a specific part of that domain. So you are still being basically born into it, as Dr. Oshin mentioned. So their own perspective is PhD, just coming and finishing a PhD is like you're just being born into the field of research. So that's their perspective.
Thank you. Okay, so one last view, then we'll talk about it. Are you supporting an argument? Which one are you supporting? Her own. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Mr. John, who are you supporting? Okay, her own too. Are you supporting his own? You're supporting her own. Okay. Or neither. You're supporting neither. Okay. All right.
Okay. The normal for other journal articles, they are peer reviewed, so some persons actually examine them before they were published. And I think for thesis and dissertations, there was internal examiners, there were external examiners. So experts in that field had already examined that work and deemed it fit to be called, to be called, and then said it has.
Okay. Your point is to support her.
Yeah, but
okay.
somebody
yes.
somebody
Let's take
that is different.
Yes. Let's take his own.
Sorry, my question is, whose perspective are we looking into?
We are talking about, what do you think? That's what that's the question. So persons are giving, their different opinions.
Because I feel both thesis and dissertation, these are work that is carried out. So if we are overlooking because the person is born into it, yes, it's fine. But nevertheless, it is the hard work of someone that brings it into play. Because without that, it's a contribution to knowledge that we are looking into. At least that person has been able to impute something to knowledge. At least.
Okay. If we are looking at it from the perspective you just said, then we'll cancel it. We'll say you don't know anything. But if we are looking at it from the perspective of it's a thesis, it's a dissertation that boards have sat on. They have reviewed it thoroughly. Persons, authorities in that field have looked at it, have given corrections, several levels of this has happened. Yes, we can argue that no now. You should be able to cite a thesis and dissertation.
There's something I just want to say, like an observation. If we say thesis and dissertations cannot be referenced because they are from rookies, but this same rookie will publish from that thesis and from that dissertation, and it will be in Q1 and to have accepted.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like talking from both sides of the mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah, Prof, you want to say something on this issue?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, that argument is so interesting. Meanwhile, there are two categories of literatures. We have the gray literatures and we have the academic literatures. So thesis and dissertations, books, book chapters, journals, conference proceedings, they all fall under the academic literature category. Just as Dr. Bismarck just mentioned, in fact, there are theses that are purely by publications. You do the work, you publish, and you put everything in the thesis. And you just write introduction and you submit it.
Yeah.
So if you are citing such thesis, you are indirectly citing the publications in the thesis. Okay. The other side to it is the university that awards PhD is licensed to do that, just like any publisher that is floating a journal. So the authority in the university has given an endorsement, Senate has given an endorsement for that thesis, then it is an academic material, not a gray literature.
Yes.
So that's the argument.
Yeah. Sir, do you want to finish? You were trying to say something.
Yeah. I was just, Prof is just, you have just concluded on what I was saying.
Exactly.
Which is perfect.
Yeah. So I wanted also to argue that that's why I put those question marks there, because persons' investments have gone into thesis and dissertations, so they should be referenceable or referable. All right, so let's look at characteristics of these reviews. They must be accurate, they must be complete. When we say accurate, what do we mean? Correct citations. Findings must be attributed to authors correctly. Not so, you could pick a paper and the person will say something and put a reference. when you want to reference, that idea is important to you. If you want to reference that idea, what do you do? Please, let me put mic in her mouth.
Who is speaking?
Okay, so to answer this question, if you're reading a paper, we see a lot of reference in that paper. So that particular point that I'm picking, I will pick the reference that was referenced in that paper. Did you get? Like maybe they put 1 in that paper, but the paper I'm reading, let's say, is 10. But in that paper, that point I'm picking, they've picked 1 as their reference. So I will reference that 1 that was referenced in that paper.
The original. Yes.
Just a question. How about if it is now so far, like years, old, let's say 10 years, what do you do?
Does it distort the theory?
Does it distort? Okay.
The how far back? Does it distort the theory?
No.
Still that? So for me, you pick that reference as it is.
Sorry, what she's trying to say is that for CU, for example, 70% current, 30%. Okay. So if I have to go back, then
of course you have to. Yes, you have to balance it out. You will balance it out.
That's number one. Number two, let's look at it from another way. You wrote a paper, and if I'm to reference, I'm supposed to reference you. Now, if I have to go back, then nobody will reference you. Everybody will be referencing, and then
So what is the person saying exactly? There must be something that I'm adding to that theory. There must be a work I've done. Did I use a different methodology? How were my results by the time then you can reference that new person. Otherwise, the new person is not saying anything.
Right.
And the essence of publishing is to put out content that can be engaged.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So, thank you. Now, what about complete? Reviews must be complete. What does that mean? It means that you are not picking, it's not every paper. In fact, it's actually impossible to get all the papers that talk about what you are trying to write about. What of the ones that are written in Chinese? Do you have them? The ones that are written in Russian language, do you have them? No. Are you saying they are not publishing? They are. Everybody is doing so. That's why we usually say this is novel to the best of my knowledge. To the best of my knowledge. You must add that statement because you never know. You can't tell. Okay? You can't tell. So but it's important to at least, as much as you can, pick on, recent relevant literature that you want to include in your review. Okay? So what kind of questions should mini literature reviews answer? What kind of questions? It's not about generic, about this area, what are they doing there? What are the typical problems there? No. It's not blankets, right? So mini literature reviews, what designs or methods are faulty? You've pulled down, those papers in that specific area, and you're looking at the methods different persons have used. What are you saying? What are you seeing in those methods, right? What are the inconsistencies and other shortcomings of the theory? So I put this in red because I believe many of the research works we do, this is what we pick. Actually, you pick the literature, you check. Okay, so what did they not do here? That's the gaps. The gaps. That's what we do. That's what we try to do. Okay. Then you also have the part of what needs further testing or investigation because evidence is lacking, inconclusive, contradictory, limited. For example, I saw something recently. I have a student that was trying to work on using transformer models to accomplish a task. And transformer models are typically built for NLP, right? Speech matters. Now, and then, we've been seeing that persons are beginning to apply transformer models to other areas beyond those typical areas it was built for. So while he was thinking, oh, okay, and transformer models are up there, right? Where if you're talking about sequential models. So until we came across another paper, and this paper this paper is a mini literature review. That's what that paper did. And that mini literature review, it brought about a dimension to papers that you typically don't see, right? And that paper said, oh, nice, I want to summarize the essence of that paper. Nice, you are using transformer models, right, to accomplish this task, to do anomaly detection. Okay, that's great, right? Because why? Transformer models have capabilities for long-term dependencies, right? They can go back in time, history, all of that. But we are beginning to see evidences here and there that when you apply transformer models to other areas than it was originally designed for, it does short-term dependency, not long-term anymore. So that's the kind. It was a review. It was a review paper, and they were able to show from that review paper that it is a lie. It's a lie. The people that said they are using transformer models to do this, to do other tasks, it's not doing what they actually want it to do. They are using it because they want long-term dependencies. But the results, and they were able to show, they brought everything out. Right? They didn't do any personal investigations of their own. There was no experiment of their own. But they brought out all of those literatures and identified the loopholes in all of those studies and said, look, see, because of this is evidence that the transformer model didn't do long term. This is evidence that it didn't do long term. That kind of paper is a mini literature review paper. It was a short paper, picking on, those papers, they looked at. But there was no original experiment. They didn't carry out their own original experiments. They only synthesized literature. Now, who can synthesize literature like that if you are not experienced? That's why I said for mini literature reviews, you need your hand to be held. A newbie to research, it will be difficult. It will be difficult, except, that's what you've been doing before you actually picked on that degree or so to say, right? Okay. So, what other questions do you think a mini literature review should answer? What other questions? Do you have any ideas, coming from your own perspective? Okay. You said solutions.
That are faulty, like what solutions can be used for
okay yes. So can somebody talk about solutions without understanding? We are coming back to the same point. Literature review, it seems easy to do literature review. It's not to read paper and say they use this method, they use that method, this was their performance, this was the gap. That seems easy. But when you're talking about literature reviews that we want to publish in Scopus indexed, outlets, then you need to be saying something worth these guys putting out there for you. And there's something called, I think I put it on, there's a slide I put it on. It must have archival, is it nature or tendency? Like, why should we publish this review? Is it important? Does it say anything different from all the reviews that we've been seeing? Right? That's the point. That's the point. There are certain persons that do papers, you send it they'll throw it back that there's no original idea in it. Because they're not saying, you're just saying this is what this person did, this is what this person did, this is what and so what? What are you now saying about all of that you have said? Right? So this is where, mini literature reviews shine. All right. So now I want to present the case of IEEE public. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm not in biological sciences. This is my own domain, right? So, but it's translatable, right? We can do transfer learning. Do you know transfer learning? you can apply, what we're presenting here. Exactly. Thank you. So IEEE says that for articles providing survey, review, or tutorial coverage, ensure that following criteria are met. So these are the things that they have put out, that for reviewers, these are the things we want you to look out for when somebody submits a review article, when you are given a review article to go through. Does the presentation style meet the requirements for a survey? And we've been talking about the what should be present in these reviews, right? Is there a need? You see what I'm saying? Is there a need for a survey, review, or tutorial on this topic? Is there a need for it? Otherwise, it will seem, okay, noted, you've done, yeah, but we can't publish it at this time. Sorry, we regret to inform you that, like their languages, okay? Does the article provide new insights and perspectives? Remember that you must, after synthesizing, what are you saying? What are you saying? What's your opinion about all of that? And that's what I was talking about. Does it have archival value? What does that mean? The ongoing usefulness or significance of records based on the administrative, legal, fiscal, evidential, or historical information they contain, justifying their continued preservation. Why? Why should we publish the review that you're trying to put out? Does it have archival value? If it does not, have people already said what you said there in the paper, then there's no need. I mean, there are other publishers that will publish it for you free. They will collect it, publish it for you. But when you are talking about those high impact guys, those Scopus indexed outlets, no. What are you saying that somebody has not said before? Well, what do you have to say? What you are saying, how does it have, will it have an impact on this sector, that sector? How will it influence life? How will it influence processes? If it can influence, yes, then they would publish it. But if it has no archival value, then they won't see any need. They'll just say, oh, okay, yeah. So you see a comment like, the work is generic, so many, it doesn't differ from many works that are out there on this topic. No new insights are presented in this paper. Therefore, we regret to inform you that your paper is rejected at this time. That's what you will see. Okay. Right. Now, he also says, also take note of the article's technical presentation and organization. There are many research, let me not say many. I've seen quite some researchers that they are very good, with the research, with the technicals, but when they present it, no logical consistency, no coherence. They just put it, anyhow. Even though there's potential substance in the paper that has been written, they can't make sense of what you've put together, and so it's just thrown back. Okay. Consider things like the structure of the article, language, writing style, quality of figures and tables, typos, length, and formatting. Now, when you say structure of the article, now why is this coming up? Now, typically, when you are publishing papers, when experiments have been conducted, and things like that, there are standard, there's a standard structure, right? Typically, introduction, perhaps literature review, methodology, right? Results and discussion, conclusion. That's the typical flow, right? But for review papers, sometimes you could have that as well, right? But most times, it's left to the author to define topics, to define headers. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because it's a review paper, right? So it's the author that would define the headers. It might not, it will not, of course you have introduction, but the next section will not be methodology. The next section will not be results and discussion. Something like that. If it's a review paper, you have to, within that domain, intelligently draw out topics that you are writing on. And so that's why that structure becomes important. Somebody, sends a review paper, you are looking at it that, is there logical consistency in this? Is it coherent, the way it has been presented? Does it tell a story? Or section 1 is completely disjointed, whatever the English is, from section 2, right? So those are things that they look at. What's the structure like? Okay, is the material presented in a comprehensive and organized manner? Does it comply with the publication style requirements? Yes. So now I want us to move to I have a few case studies, right? I have a few case studies, and then I want us to talk about your own personal reviews or stuff you're working on. Okay, so I'm bringing out abstract here because abstracts should be constant. It is the body that will change depending on the topic you are writing about. Okay, when you are talking about the structure of the review paper. Now, for the abstracts of mini literature reviews or literature reviews generally, they are descriptive in nature. They are descriptive. You are describing. So when we say descriptive, it means you're summarizing the subject of the review and the approach the authors, that you're talking about, they've taken in covering the subject matter. And what's the content of that abstract? You have the introduction, the main focus, the gaps identified, you're describing them, and then the conclusions and practical implications. And importantly, IEEE says the abstract should not include any information absent from the article itself. So they usually say authors should, typically persons write abstracts, develop the paper, review the abstract, but they usually say before you submit, read your abstract, go through your paper again. Now go back to the abstract. Is there anything you have put in the abstract that is not present in the body of the work? And when we say that is not present, we are not saying verbatim. It shouldn't be verbatim, actually. It's like you synthesizing what you have done and then bringing a summary that contains the, important points that you're trying to highlight in that article, because that's the first thing they will read. So if in your abstract, you've presented generally, about something, and you're not putting in the insights that you have drawn from that literature exercise that you have done, from that review exercise, it will be thrown back. It will be thrown back because they are not quickly seeing, especially editors that are not so patient to look at, okay, so we've seen the abstract, let's now look at the body of the work. So it's better to, let it carry the information it's to carry from the get-go. Okay? Yes. So I have about 4 examples here. So I want us to look at it. So this first one, anomaly detection in medical imaging, a mini review. That's the topic. Published March 2022 by Springer. 52 references. Mini review, exactly. 52 references. You have a question, yeah?
Like how is there a number of pages or words for mini review?
Yeah, so I've seen some, yes, yeah. So I've seen some outlets define what they want. Like many of them typically do that, not more than 7 pages, but it's not fixed. You understand? It differs from publisher to publisher. But typically the systematic ones, when you see them, you already know there's no cap to this, right? Those ones are long. But for the mini reviews, they are treated like journal papers, like articles that have defined content. Or is it number of content? What should we call it? Maybe number of words. Yes, number of pages. Yeah. So usually you have a question.
Okay, so my question is,
For mini review, it is the same thing as literature review. And
Okay.
and also I want to ask a question regarding referencing. All right. So if I do my project and I've written my thesis and I want to write a journal on it, can I cite this kind? Like, how do I cite it? Like,
How do you cite what?
like my project work. How do I cite it?
Why do you want to cite your project? Is your project online?
Okay, I thought
Is it-
MC usually like publishes, like put it in a kind of a
Repository.
Yes. So now, if I'm now writing it and it's turn it now, I don't know. So those are actually
Exactly. Somebody says, I don't want to put it in, say it in the mic. Somebody said something and he's right. Yeah. You can ask him. Somebody said something. Yeah.
The way give the person the mic. Yeah. Your whatever you say here.
So they used to do it. There was a time I was working on something and I saw a project that was published and it was CU's repository that it was in. But I don't think they do it anymore. I'm not sure.
Has he answered your question? Okay. I'm not the one that said it. Okay. Yeah. So but with the first question you asked, what was that first question? Okay. So mini literature review is a type of literature review. Systematic literature review is a type of literature review. Okay. Literature is just broad. There are now different types of literature review. Okay. So for this one, I want us to read through. And I want us to critique it. Do we think, even though we don't have access to the entire report, I want us to critique it and think about it. That is it possible? Did the person cover what he should cover? Did he put things that he shouldn't have put there? I just want us to look at it. Any opinions? You have one small opinion because your hand was like this. Okay.
Like I was just trying to follow what was taught, the formats that was taught, the SIP.
Okay.
Like they states the content. So yes, he stated the content and then he gave the gap, which was however, and then he explained the importance and the purpose. So what I'm not getting now is like what's the exact like the exact method that is using now here. That's I noticed.
Okay, when you say method of what exactly?
The particular kind of, it just said semi-exhaustive literature review. Is that like the method is used for this research?
Okay, so I think he said that just to is just signposting that is a mini review. I think that's what the person is trying to say by semi-exhaustive. It's not, if it's exhaustive, it should be systematic, meta-analysis, something like that. But he's saying, small. That's what the person, I think that's what the person is trying to say. You wanted to say something, sir?
What I saw here is actually exhaustive. Like, it's actually exhausting. When I saw 120 analyzed papers, it's more like what you would do for a systematic literature review. And I also noticed that he actually gave us an insight into where he's coming from and then coming to where he's going. So is actually a very nice abstract for me. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot of papers for a mini review.
Okay. Yeah. You want to say something? Okay. Where?
Third line.
Yeah. Is right. Yeah. I noticed that as well. Yeah. So any other? Okay.
Thank you. For me, I think I've learned something here. In the second statement, he said that I think, however, supervised machine learning, something. So that's more like a problem. And then coming to, I think from the bottom, the number 4th line, where he said the main results shows that the current research is mostly motivated by reducing the need for labeled data. So he was able to target that statement of. So okay. What I've learned is that when writing my abstract now, there has to be synergy between my statements, what I'm putting out as a problem, and the major results that I have.
Yes. So in fact, me personally, when I read a report, I'm looking out for storytelling in that report. No matter how technical that report is, I'm looking out for storytelling. It must be logical. It must be, coherent. Otherwise, no, it means nobody can make use of what you've done, because it means nobody can follow through with what you have written, how you have presented your literature, or your notes. Okay. Yes. So there was one more hand. Then I'll now say something.
Yes, I think the person did I'll say a good work, because first he gave a general background of what is happening in medical imaging, because it's like the paper is talking about medical imaging, and it has to do with anomaly detection. And then he gave a gap, and then presented results, and also gave areas for further studies. In the sense that he said also the successful and substantial amount of research in the brain MRI domain shows the potential for application in further domains like OCT and chest X-ray.
Yeah.
So he has also identified that research should also be tailored towards these two areas.
Yeah.
If you really want to do anything on medical imaging, showing that there is highly available works on brain MRI. That means so many works have been done in that domain.
Yeah.
So you need to, if you are going to do any research related to that, you should look at these two areas. They are more green.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So for me, let me read the sentence that was most important for me in this paper. This paper uses a semi-exhaustive literature review of relevant anomaly detection papers in medical imaging to cluster into applications, highlight important results, establish lessons learned, and give further advice on how to approach anomaly detection in medical imaging. That is the strength of this mini literature review. That it is not just synthesized, it's not just presenting that, oh, this person did this person did that, that's the gap. No. They've tied all of the works done. So they are now able to provide advice on how to approach anomaly detection in medical imaging. Specifically targeting reducing the need for labeled data. So it's highly specific. Very specific, okay? So let's look at another example. There are like 3 examples here. Now look at this one. From the title and the references, what do you think? This one is no mini. It's not a mini. This is a systematic literature review. So, there are telltale signs. There are telltale signs already on the type of review. Okay? Let me read a particular part. A total of 296 papers are reviewed, with common themes and research gaps identified. This paper makes a novel contribution by identifying the key challenges that remain in the field, which include resource constraints, a lack of standardized communication protocols, extreme heterogeneity that hampers industry consensus, and different information security priorities between operational technology and information technology networks. Potential solutions and opportunities for further research are identified to address these selected challenges. What I'm trying to highlight here is something I've been trying to hammer on from the beginning. You cannot just, except you want to publish it in a low impact journal or conference proceeding. But if you are aiming for a high impact publication, review, you must be I mean, this person there was no experiment, but they are claiming novelty. No experiment, yet they are claiming novelty. And that's what these guys are looking for. Novelty, original idea. So despite it being literature review, originality is still coming up and what's the originality? The originality is in their brain, they exercise their brain, actually. They thought through all of the literature, coming from the theoretical background they already have, they are able to, so can newbies to research do single-handedly handle literature reviews that you want to be published in high impact outlets? No. You must be handheld. Your name will feature on the paper, but you would have authorities on that paper as well. Okay? All right. So this is also a mini. This is also a mini. You can see 27 references. And this is from an IEEE magazine. This is an IEEE paper, 27 references. Okay? It says, in this article, we highlight key aspects in the development of Edge AI in the past and connect them to current challenges. This article aims to identify research opportunities for Edge AI relevant to bring together the research in the fields of AI and edge computing. Okay? Now, I want us to, so this is also systematic. Have you seen the number of references? 317. 317 references. People are working, in essence. People are working, people are creating more problems. Okay, yes, that's a perspective. Right. So I want to bring out something here. So at the end of the day, right, from what I want to present now, you see that it's the logical consistency and coherence is important. Chronologically presented literature that will show organization of the literature is very important. Now, in one of the papers that I brought out the abstract, the neurocomputing paper example, number 1 to 9 was the structure of the paper. It's a review paper. That's what I was trying to highlight, that, the structure is not defined. It can't be defined because depending on the area, you would have your own crafted subtitles. So it can't be defined. Okay? So for the neurocomputing paper example, you have these subtitles. For the Springer paper example, you have these subtitles. You remember I also mentioned that some persons still stick to the original, that traditional introduction, methodology, results. And what do they present there? When it's under methodology, they say, we focused on Google Scholar, Scopus search engines. We covered between this year and that year. We downloaded papers focused on these geographical areas. They present all of that, their methodology to the review that they did. That's what they present there. Right? And then they also present results, several tables comparing the literature and all of that. Okay? So this is another one. And we can see the structure of this one. You see that even this one has subtitles and subtitles as well. Right? And this was a mini. This was a mini literature review. The guys with 27 references. So already you would know that their original ideas is embedded in this paper. Because with just 27 references, look at the content they were able to pull out. The content, and they were not extensive, but short, but straight to the point, hitting the point. That's why it's not me that said it. We've established that mini literature reviews cannot be embarked single-handedly by newbies. Okay? Thank you for listening. Okay, so I want us to, all right. So if we have questions, I want us to interact. Let people contribute. If you have a topic you are working on currently, if you have a review manuscript you are working on, let's look at it. What's the topic? What's your structure? What are you, if you're able to talk about what you're trying to do, and everybody here gets you, you are doing a good job. Do you know how difficult it is to present your work to a diverse audience, right? And they're able to follow through what you're trying to say. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. Okay? Not just, of course, there are journals that are, for technicals, IEEE transactions, those they are journals where everything is mathematics, everything from top to bottom is math. They know their readers, please. They know their readers. You have the people that are going there. They know what they are looking for. Okay? But so if you can tell us about what you're working on, if you have a manuscript you're working on, tell us about it. Let's put our mouth in your matter. Okay? Yeah. So who wants to? Yeah. How can we first? Yeah, I can come around, but I want you to stand up and first tell us what you are doing. Yes. I'm not stealing your idea. I'm not stealing your idea. Just tell us, what's going on in your. Yes.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm working on a review. I'm not sure what kind of review it is yet. I worked on a particular topic for my MSc seminar, adoptive T-cell therapy in solid tumors and hematological tumors.
What does that mean?
Okay, adoptive T-cell therapy. You're trying to engineer the immune cells to fight against solid tumors and hematological tumors as blood cancers. So I was trying to compare.
Let's pause.
Okay.
When she said her title and when she told us about what she was doing, was there a light bulb? Did a light bulb appear? Okay, so let's clap for her, please. She was able to clearly, simple grammar, tell us what's going on. Okay.
So because of the whole SPS requirements thing, I knew that I couldn't put that out as per one of my papers for graduation.
Why?
I needed to specify, copy case, I needed to specify a particular cancer, and I'm working on breast cancer. So I decided to look at, the advances of this particular therapy, the shortcomings in breast cancer as a solid tumor. And okay, one of the challenges that I've faced so far is for every single idea I have brought up, let's say 80% of them have already been done. So I wanted to come.
20%?
Okay, the first part of my paper, right? I wanted to come from an angle of bringing immunotherapy. That's, like I said, equipping the body's immune cells to fight these cancers. I wanted to bring it as.
For the first time, I now know what immunotherapy means. She just told me. I've been seeing it. Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to come from the angle of presenting this as a solution, explaining very shortly how it works, and basically like a story. This is what it is. This is how it works. This is what has been done. There are lots of successes in blood tumors. This is why we've experienced this, and we want to, incorporate this particular therapy to a solid tumor like breast cancer. So I've been able to tell that story in my intro. And one of the things that has probably basically delayed me is for some of the ideas I'm trying to, bring out. I've read a couple of papers and I'm still reading a couple of papers. Most of the ideas, okay, so there are antigen targets that these engineered T cells would recognize. Okay, once they recognize it, they can tell that this is actually cancerous. I need to attack this. Okay, and there are different antigen targets. I wanted to come from an angle of the antigen targets that are expressed in different breast cancer subtypes. I would explain. So if 10 people have breast cancer, right? Each of those 10 people have different breast cancers. You have estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, you have triple negative breast cancer, and the likes. So I feel like I don't feel like, actually, there are different antigen targets for each of them that I've seen so far. And I wanted to come from that angle. Let me do something different. Check papers, what have been done, has this person worked on this? And I saw about, 4 or 5 papers doing the same thing. I wanted to come from another angle. I saw another, like a couple of papers doing the same thing. And so I'm stuck.
Is this a PhD? Is it a PhD? Is it targeted at PhD?
No.
Okay. Masters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so at the moment, I'm stuck. So where I am is I have been able to list a couple of clinical trials that have been done, identify some of their strengths, and I want to talk about probably, okay, this and this are the issues and why this was discontinued. And that's where I am. I don't know where to proceed from because most of the ideas I've brought up, somebody in 2010 has already done it.
That was like a dagger. 2010. 2010. So have you looked at recent papers? Are recent papers talking about what you are talking about? Or you are trying to say what you're trying to bring up was in 2010?
Okay. What I'm trying to say is the ideas I've brought up, there are a couple of authors that have already completely, like they've exhaustively explained what I thought, I'm just thinking about for the first time. Do you understand? So
yes.
I'm out of ideas, basically.
So, I don't know how researching your domain works, but, at a point I asked that, is this targeted at PhD? Because it is at PhD level that we know that, you have to be doing something very new. Very, very new. But at master's level, I feel like if you have synthesized literature and you could be applying a method that, its techniques work better for that particular problem than what has been typically been used for that problem, and you use that, then that's masters. Yeah, I'm wondering what the requirements are in biological sciences, right? Yeah, that's why I'm wondering what the requirements are. But so from the more recent papers that you have read, is there anything you are seeing there that's applicable to what you're talking about?
Yes, sort of.
Okay.
But my dilemma basically is there are certain angles I want to discuss. For example, I said I wanted to talk about antigen targets in different breast cancer subtypes, classify them, right? Okay, so for this particular breast cancer, this is what has been done. This is what has been targeted. These are the sets. These are the drawbacks from this, okay? And probably suggest that, okay, to tackle this, we can combine this and this together. That has been done. So my dilemma is trying to get a particular area to discuss that a couple of people have not already spoken about. So when I'm presenting this particular paper, it holds something, it holds water, basically.
Okay, so from everything, I'm working based on what you're saying. So why are we even looking at that topic at all? If you are the one saying that, it has been, you're thinking of it has been exhaustively talked about, you are looking at this, it has been, do you understand what I'm trying to ask now? So why? Why are we still focusing on that problem? Why?
I picked an
like
interest, yes. Like, I really, really like the topic.
Do you want to pick another interest? Because if it has been thoroughly, do you understand? That's why I said I'm judging from what you are saying.
Yes, ma'am.
If you are thinking about this, it has been thoroughly, exhausted. You pick this that thoroughly exhausted. That's what I asked. Is there another method? Maybe recent papers. Are they looking at it? Are they trying to attack it from a different angle? That's why I asked that question. Right. So.
You're talking about breast cancer, right? Okay, so looking at their samples, their data sets, what type of women? Sometimes when I did my master's then, this CNN was in vogue. Everybody was using CNN, especially for facial recognition. Then, so even if you type facial recognition, you see like 1 million papers. But one thing I did was I discovered those systems were built using white faces. We do not have Nigerian faces. So what I did was, okay, I brought it down to Covenant University using Covenant University faces. And that was what I did for my master's. And I also did a paper for Nigeria faces. You get, so you can look at what women something are they using. So bring girls home, let them know you guys are doing, let them know gene differs, people from this particular area have this type of tendency. I think, I really don't know.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Said if you're using like Nigeria and then you're now doing a comparison, if there's a difference in the antigenity of Nigerians different from those in Europe, then you might not necessarily have to do everything. If it's just one that you take or two that they have seen that, okay, maybe there's not a lot of work there or there's some work, but maybe the drug targets are not working as they should, and you are focusing on that antigen and trying to see why isn't the drug that is available working, and is it that they haven't gotten another kind of drug that could work. So if you come from that aspect, not trying to compare everything, you can now see, like, your eyes will open to something else. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, can you move on in life with all of these insights?
By God's grace. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. John, do you still want to say something?
Engineer Mrs. Comfort said it's a gap already because
it is.
those things they have been centered on. So your target should be what you've identified.
Sample size,
all those samples are more or less white. There is no, so it's a gap that she has already given you now. So you can work on that gap.
All right. Thank you. So, any other case study that we can look at? Nobody's going to steal your idea.
Thank you very much. I'm also working on a review, and the way I see it from what I've learned today, I think it will be like a narrative kind of. Because my topic is pyrethroid resistance in female Anopheles gambiae, a review of mechanisms and control strategies. So we are
demystify, sir. Demystify.
All right. So over time, there has been resistance to insecticide from those. So, and then several literatures have been able to identify the specific, the different mechanisms by which they exhibit this resistance. Now, but this problem has since continued over time. No, now looking at Nigeria, for example, there is no much work in terms of all detailed mechanisms of this resistance. From what I have seen so far, they are mainly using Africa. It's only about 2 or 3 papers that I've talked about. I mean, there is a man actually that I've seen. I have forgotten his name. I think he has moved to CDC now.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So the person saying Africa, did they say where in Africa? Kenya. Okay.
Kenya, Togo, and the likes. Yeah. So we are trying to look at all these mechanisms and then see what we can get from all these literatures in terms of control strategies that can be leveraged to overcome it. Now,
okay, I have something to say. Well, so this is a thought that popped in my head because you said that you saw only 2, Nigerian. Yes. How long have you been searching?
Well, since my seminar defense, that was about,
how many months ago?
That was about 6 months.
6
I haven't. No, the search has not been consistent.
Okay. So as you were speaking, a thought just popped in my head. The fact that sometimes, we are searching for literature. We say, I'm not seeing what I want to see. I'm not seeing anything, that I really want. Yeah, this person is talking about this. Sometimes it's our prompting that is an issue. Okay. Keywords.
Okay.
Keywords can be a big problem. The right keyword can open the door for you. It's just a paper will just pop up and you'll be wondering, wait a minute, when was this paper published? But I realized, from my own experience, I realized that prompting, that technique, to prompting comes with time. in research. It might not be, if you are given a topic, most times students will type in that entire topic in Google or be looking for. You won't really get much. Sometimes you need to, synthesize that topic and break it apart, and search like that, layer by layer. Sometimes, so you might need to do something like that, and you might be surprised at what you'll find. It might not just be just those two persons. In Nigeria, that must is prevalent. That's why I said prompting might be, yeah. So do we have, yes?
Question is, you were talking about mini review. You said you want, like, we should show something new, right? Something that, okay, we'll not be able to find in other journals. Okay, now, so if I want to write a review on a particular subject, that, okay, all the papers I've been seeing on that particular subject has been research papers, not literature review. So is that still...
She wants to play a smart one. Okay.
Yeah. So is that acceptable?
How do you know that there's no review paper? Let me tell you why I asked that question. So usually, what these journals do, they look for authorities in those areas so it's called invited review. So they invite them to do reviews on areas that they know will begin to trend very soon. So even before persons are, getting into that vibe of, there's a new topic in town, just Google, you will find an invited review paper on it. That's why I said, are you sure? Are you sure because that is a standard thing they do. It's the standard thing they do. They do invited reviews because you also want to drive traffic to your outlets. And the way you drive traffic to your outlets is to put out content that, is hot, is something that will drag attention to you. So sometimes there are invited review papers, not necessarily persons that, are saying, oh, look at my review now. This is what I've been able to do. No. And they give authorities to do. So those things are usually thorough reviews. And you see perhaps the person's students, on that paper. But you by the time you go through the author list and Google them, you see there's a notable, there's a notary public. Let me use that word, borrow that word on that paper. So you might need to search because review paper that you did not find. Except it's not being targeted at a particular area that the review paper didn't really touch on. It may have touched on it skeletally, but you want to bring in literature that and highlight some things that they talked about in those years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we can call it a day. All right. Thank you very much for having me today. I hope you learned a thing or two. And it was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Oshin. Thank you very much. That's very, very engaging, insightful, and participatory. That's a very good one. I believe you will come back. I believe you will come back. Thank you so much.